What's going on, y'all? Just making a quick Alchemical Hydra guide for those of y'all that are trying to learn Alchemical Hydra. Now, I know there's a lot of guides out there, but the reason I'm making one today is because when I was trying to learn how to do Alchemical Hydra, I noticed that a lot of the videos were from 10 to 12 months ago or even longer than that. There's obviously been some new gear that's been added into the game since then, so I just wanted to make sure that I was able to make a guide that is more up to date for those of y'all that are trying to learn how to do Hydra moving forward. So real quick here on the gear setup, I personally have max gear. However, we can talk a little bit about some downgrades from there. So if you don't have a T-bow in full Missouri, what you can use is Crystal and a Bofa. That works very well here. You can use an Armadillo crossbow, a Dragon Hunter crossbow, anything along those lines. Those are all going to be adequate downgrades from the max gear from here. Um, Now, as far as the inventory goes, we'll talk a little bit about this, but I like to bring a blowpipe. That's my healing mechanism here for the most part. If you're doing Alchemical Hydra correctly, you're not going to be taking a lot of damage. I also bring 3 divine ranging potions because the trips that I do personally have been a little bit extended. I'm only about 150 KCN at the point of this video, and I can easily do 30, 40 kill trips. It hasn't really been that hard. I've also got all the combat achievements done already outside of the 150 KC. So I believe I'm sitting somewhere right around 130, 140 KC actually. And then from there, you're going to bring mostly prayer potions and then a little bit of food. Obviously, play a little bit with the quantity that you bring here. That's going to be dependent on your efficiency with Alchemical Hydra. When you first start, I'd recommend maybe bringing a little bit more food, maybe even a couple tickets just in case, because she does hit hard if you don't pray correctly. However, it is easy to lock in the mechanics and do this correctly to where you're not taking any damage at all. And then down here, I'll bring a Bone Crusher necklace. I personally have 99 prayers, so I'm not too worried about saving these bones to use on an altar later. I'm also not too worried about banking these bones to sell them at the GE at a later date or whatever it might be. So I like to use the Bone Crusher necklace because for those of y'all that don't know, it when it buries the bones or disseminates the bones at the end of a kill, it boosts your prayer a little bit too. So for Alchemical Hydra specifically, at the end of each kill, when I do my necklace switch as the animation is going down, I'll get 6 additional prayer points, and that kind of helps extend your trip a little bit throughout the duration of your time in the Alchemical Hydra Lyre. And then from here in the rune pouch, what I utilize here is nature's, lavas, dust, and earth runes. That allows me to one have my teleport to home, and it also allows me to have alks. Hydra does drop a lot of alkables, so that just allows you to keep the floor clean and obviously bring in a little bit of GP while you're doing it as well. Now, as far as getting here, a couple different methods. You can utilize one, either fairy rings. So teleport to a fairy ring and utilize code CIR. That's going to teleport you just northeast of the farming guild right here. You'll run up through this agility shortcut and then down into this elevator where I'm standing now. Or if you have the Elite Diaries done, which I forgot to mention, if you don't have Elite Diaries done, rather than using Pegasian boots or your ranging boots, you're going to have to use boots of stone or something that will protect you from the heat of the floor down in the Cerulean dungeon. So if you have Elite Diaries, you can use Rada's Blessing to teleport you into the spot that I'm standing now, and then you'll go down this elevator. I'm sure if you're looking at this guide, you've already done this before and you know how to get here. So I'm not going to belittle y'all's knowledge or whatever it might be. So you'll run north, jump over these rocks, and you're going to go to the northeast. If you have 88 agility, you can use this shortcut. It's going to spit you out right over here in this area. However, I don't because I hate skilling, so I'm just going to run through these. More often than not, they're going to attack with range, so quick overhead prayer from range, and you're not going to have to worry about taking too much damage. If you do, as I mentioned beforehand, if you're doing the mechanics correctly, you're not going to be taking a lot of damage from Hydra at all, so it shouldn't be something that you worry too much about. So real quick, I'm going to pause and talk about the tiles that I have labeled and take you through verbally what a fight is going to look like. Now, the first one is going to be the most difficult, just because you're trying to set the rotation. However, it is not like Dagannoth Kings. You don't have to worry about getting wiped whenever you're trying to set a rotation. This is super easy. So even though I said it is the most difficult, that's just an attestament to how easy this demi-boss fight is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run in with overhead prayer of range and rigor on, and I'm going to run to this start tile. As I'm running to the start tile, I'm going to get some DPS off. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm trying to get to this point as quickly as possible because Hydra has a mechanic to where her defenses are buffed, and the way you uh, minimize those defenses or negate those defenses is by luring her over these vents based upon the appropriate phase. So the first phase, which we're going to call green phase, because as you can see right now, she is green, you have to mix her with the red chemicals. So we're trying to lure her over there. That's why we're running to this start point. Once she gets over there, there's going to be an animation over her head where she says "rar" or whatever the heck you want to say it is, and that's your indicator that her defenses have been lowered. At that point, from the start of the fight, she's going to go ahead and trigger off 3 attacks. You're going to pray appropriately to that, whether it be range or mage. After the third attack, she's going to whip her head back. That's the indicator that she's going to switch attack styles. And from that point, at the start of the fight, before she goes off into her next attack style, she's going to shoot out one of her specials, which is an acid blob. So after 3 game ticks of her whipping her head back, you are going to move from the start tile to the number 2. If you do it appropriately, all her acid blobs should go in this general quadrant and you won't have to worry about it. If you don't, not a big deal. They hit you for like a 6 or a 7, and then the poison damage from that is a 4. So the chip damage really isn't too bad. So it's not something you have to super sweat over. So from there, we switch our overhead prayers. We're now moving. I'm going to get 1 proc off at each of these tiles as she's in the green phase. So I'll move here, proc, move here, proc, move to tile 4, proc, and move to tile 5. If she has not phased by then, I'm going to go ahead and camp out at tile 5, switching my overhead prayer every 3 attacks from Hydra to the appropriate prayer until she gets to 825 health. Once she gets there, she's going to move into her blue phase, which we're now going to talk about the blue tiles. So blue phase, we're going to go ahead and step back. It's going to lure her into the green quadrant, weakening her defenses. And as soon as she does that RAR with the indication that she has now had her defenses weakened, we're going to quickly move over to tile 7 while getting some DPS off along the way because it's all about speed, right? We're not trying to lose any DPS. So usually I get about 2 hits in on the move. So we'll go 6, get a hit off right around this area, a hit off right around this area, and then finally hit right around 7. At that point, I'm going to camp out until she has done 4 attacks. After her 4th attack, she's going to spit out electric balls throughout the room. There's going to be a ball that lands in this vicinity. You're going to wait, and we're going to talk about the lightning skip here. It's actually a super easy mechanic to get down. So that blue ball lands in this vicinity. You're going to wait until it is 1 tile away. Usually in one of these 2 tiles, it's going to be moving slowly. Once it hits one of these 2, you're going to quickly move from tile 7 to 8 to 9. And that's going to get that electrical ball trapped right underneath you. Then you're no longer going to have to worry about the electricity on the ground. Again, easy mechanic to learn. However, if you don't get it down, not a big deal because it'll only hit you for about a 10 to a 14 and slows you down about 2 game ticks. So it's not anything that's going to be super detrimental to the fight unless you're trying to go for the Grandmaster Speed Chaser task or anything along those lines. Or the no pressure combat task, that would be pretty detrimental. So now we're sitting out on tile 9. Once she gets to about 550 damage, you're going to quickly move over to tile 11. Once we're at tile 11, she's going to move over the blue chemicals, weakening her defenses, and you're going to quickly move over to tile 12, where you're going to camp out until she's at about 400 HP. She will then start to move slowly into the center of the room, meaning that she is going to do her flame wall special attack. So from there, while she's moving, you're going to quickly move to tile 13, get 1 proc off, and then move to tile 14. And you're going to be doing DPS while you're waiting for her to do the flame wall. So now she's doing her flame wall special. She's going to go ahead and spit flames into this quadrant right here. She's going to quickly turn to the west of the room. She's going to spit flames into this quadrant right here. And then she's going to face you diagonally to the northwest of the room. Now we're going to talk about the flame wall skip, which is also a super easy mechanic to get down. This is something you do want to get down because if you don't, it makes the fight a little bit more of an annoyance. It slows you down pretty significantly. So she's now facing you. You're on tile 14. If you're good at counting game ticks, 2 game ticks after she faces you, you're going to quickly move from tile 14 to 15. If you're not, no worries. There's a visual indicator that you can utilize. While you're sitting here on tile 14, you're going to notice that she's going to slowly whip her head back, just as if she were changing it from range to mage or mage to range as her attack styles go. And as she does that, simultaneously, you're going to move over to tile 15. If you do it correctly, you're going to notice that the flame ball that she throws at you goes from the center tile right here to tile 14 and gets stuck while you're standing on tile 15, and you're free to go from there. You can then DPS Hydra until she goes to her final phase, being the black phase. If you don't do it correctly and that flame is chasing you, all you're going to do is walk in the room, just nice and slowly, continue to walk. Don't quit moving. If you do quit moving, it's going to knock you back and hit you for 5 damage until that flame stops chasing you. Once it stops chasing you, you can then damage Hydra from wherever you're at. I don't recommend you run because that flame will stick to you pretty quickly, and all you're going to do is spam this area with flame, and it's going to make it real difficult to maneuver. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move into the final phase of Hydra. So she's lost the final 2 heads of her. She's now in her black phase. Whatever your overhead prayer was before she went into the black phase, you're going to switch to the opposite. So if you were overhead prayer of mage, you're going to then switch to range. If you're overhead prayer of range, you're going to then switch to mage. And that's what she's going to start off with. She's going to do 3 attacks. So you have the opportunity to DPS her while she's doing that. She does 1 attack, you switch overhead prayer, another attack, switch overhead prayer, another attack, switch overhead prayer. Right before she spits out attack number 4, you're going to quickly move from tile 15 to 17. We're going to completely skip 16 here. 16 is only there in case you mess up the flame wall phase. So we quickly move from 15 to 17. She's going to spit an acid blob out. That acid blob is going to be centralized in this quadrant if you do it correctly. If not, it might move over here, but not a big deal. Just like previously, it's only going to hit you for about 5 to 7 damage. And then from there, you have 10 Hydra attacks in order to kill her before you have to worry about anything else. I've done, again, about 130 to 140 kills here, and not once have I had to worry about not getting through Hydra before she spits out another acid ball. I've done the no pressure combat achievement already, and even while doing that, maybe I just had great RNG, I didn't have to worry about her spitting out acid ball again after that 10th one, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, even if you do have lesser gear. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and do a kill live here. I'll talk you all through it as I'm doing it, and then we can break it down a little bit further at the end. All right, so before I go in there, normally I would hit my divine ranging potion. However, I want to make sure that I'm able to show you all the phases, and I pretty frequently out DPS her, and I'm able to skip several phases. So I'm not going to drink my divine ranging potion in. I'm just going to go in there praying overhead range and rigor, and I'm going to go ahead and move to that start tile. You can see she's attacking with mage, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to mage. Move to the attack, move to the start tile. That's her 3rd attack. Switch to range right before she spits. I move to tile 2, and now we're free to move. Tile 3, tile 4, tile 5. This is her 3rd attack. She whips her head back. We switch our prayer. And from here, she's going to go ahead and move into the next phase. I'm going to step over to tile 6. There's the RAR. I now know her defenses are weakened. I'm moving over to tile 7. 3rd attack, switch over to range. I'm at tile 7. I'm going to camp out here until I see that electrical ball. There's going to be one that lands here. It is 1 tile away, 8, 9. It's now trapped underneath me. Super simple. And she's now in the red phase. Move to tile 11. Move her forward. Back to tile 12. Her defenses are weakened. We're set now. That was the 3rd attack. I messed up. No big deal. Just switch the overhead prayer. Whips her head back into range. She's now moving to the center. I normally get a quick proc off there, but I missed it, so we're camping at 14. Flame wall, 2 game ticks, move to 15. Flame wall gets trapped right there. Now we're switching overhead prayer to range. There's attack 1. Messed up, we're going to camp range. Attack 2. Attack 3 coming. And now we're free sailing. Now that acid attack does not count as an attack, so you'll notice I kept my overhead prayer, and I can't multitask, so I missed that prayer there, but not a big deal. I kept my overhead prayer as sometimes ground items are really annoying. As mage after she did that poison attack, because that was the last one that I left off on. All right, well, there you have it. That was a quick Alchemical Hydra kill. Not a clean one by any means, but as you can see, even with the mistakes that I did make, it wasn't super detrimental. So this is not a boss to be afraid of by any means. It's something that's very easy for those of you all that aren't even advanced gamers, as some might call themselves. I'll be making a melee guide for Alchemical Hydra here in the near future, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and focus on range. So hope to see you all soon.